This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you by the Renewed Spirits event, an evening with Elizabeth Smart at the Marriott Conference Center in Florence, Alabama on September 28, 2021. You may remember that Elizabeth Smart was set to graduate middle school in 2002 when she was abducted from her home in Salt Lake City, Utah, and held captive by a husband and wife. She was chained to a tree in a campsite just miles from her home and endured atrocities. However, this was a rare horror story with a happy ending, as the clues led to her safe return less than a year after her disappearance. Elizabeth will be sharing her story of hope, healing, and never giving up. Through this traumatic experience, Elizabeth has become an advocate for change related to child abduction, recovery programs, and national legislation. Elizabeth triumphantly testified before her captor and the world about the very private nightmare she suffered during her abduction, which led to conviction. General admission is $50 per person. Sponsorships are also available. Call 256-335-4062 for more information or check out the links in the show notes. Proceeds from this event will benefit Renewed Spirits, a nonprofit that offers quality mental health services to underserved clients. Renewed Spirits will defer to local, state, and national guidance if COVID-19 cases dictate in September. We plan to be at half capacity, and masks will be required to attend the event. Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. I am Travis Creasy. This is Ben Hayes.
And it is a good day.
It's a great day, wonderful day. Anytime we get to hang out together.
That's right, especially on road trips.
Road trips, an hour and a half down the road from Fayetteville, 3 hours from Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
That's right.
We're coming to you from McMinnville, Tennessee. We're able to stay the night in an interesting place, a wonderful place.
Really cool place.
The Bonnie Blue Inn Bed and Breakfast.
Looking forward to the breakfast part in the morning.
Yes, very excited about that. We're going to be spending the day at Vacation Bible School for the Central Church of Christ here in McMinnville, Tennessee. But we thought...
We're getting to hang out in a really cool vintage
really
chair.
Snazzy. We're matching. You know, the shirt, the bat, the couch, all the same color.
Doing the best
for those of you that can see the video, you can check that out. But we had a few weeks ago, or I guess a month or two ago, we posted in our Facebook group. We'd love for you to join that, facebook.com/groups/Ben and Travis. And we just put out there, hey, what do you guys want to hear a podcast about? What do you want to hear us talk about? And one of the topics that received a large amount of the votes is what were some influential verses in the Bible for you? And, you know, there's several ways we can go at this. So we may have a couple that we'll share. You know, there's influential in your personal life.
Yep.
There's influential on your preaching. There's influential on your ministry, influential on your relationship with your spouse. You know, there's all kinds of different ways we're going to go with this.
And
we'll
I'm guessing that may mean that we have to do a couple of different episodes at different times, because I'm not sure. You know, when you talk about having your favorite Bible verse or your most influential Bible verse, I mean, it's hard not to say, well, all of them, because they're all pretty. I mean, they're all pretty powerful. And when I start thinking, oh, well, that's easy, I got this one, and then I'm like, no, you know, I got this one too, and then maybe this one. So it's kind of hard. So we may end up doing a few of these. And obviously today, because of where we're at and the lack of internet, Will is not with us. So Will would probably be a good one to throw in on this question as well.
And if you've heard the podcast, I'm sure we've dropped a couple of these verses in there.
Oh, yeah.
That we shared over time. But this time we'll kind of give the reason why maybe they mean so much to us. And so, Ben, you're the elder statesman of the group, or the two of us. I like reminding you of that from time to time.
It is true.
I'm going to let you go ahead and share one. Jump out there.
Well, probably my longest standing favorite Bible verse that, you know, that I can remember always going, that's my favorite one, is probably 2 Timothy chapter 4, 6 through 8. I'm ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. I've fought a good fight. I've finished the course. I've kept the faith. Therefore, there's laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me at that day, and not to me only, but to all those also who love his appearing. And it's probably one that is a very personal verse from the standpoint of, you know, it's that individual need to, you know, I've fought a good fight. I've finished the course. I've kept the faith. There's a point in which faith becomes your own. I had great parents raised me in the Lord. They had great parents raised them in the Lord. I had great aunts and uncles that were influences on me. Our youth minister growing up, some of our Bible class teachers, super great influences, but at some point it had to become my own. And so I think there's a personal connection there to I have fought the good fight, finished the course, kept the faith. There's a connection that says, hey, this is for everybody, because goes on to say, it's for all those who are longing for or looking for or who love his appearing. And so, as a family of Christians, there's a connection there too. Paul, knowing this is some of what we understand, probably the last book he wrote, and he's saying, hey, this time is coming, and I know it's going to happen. But I think the other part that made it one of my favorites and most influential is the verses that precede it. He says that I want you to preach the word, be instant in season and out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. Time will come when they'll not endure sound doctrine, but they'll heap for themselves teachers having itching ears, be turned away from the truth and be turned into fables. But watching all these things. And so I think there's a what I chose to do with my life section of there as a minister. Be prepared, be ready, teach, exhort, encourage, help people. And so there's just so many elements to those 6 or 8 verses, I guess 8 verses there if you start all the way back at the beginning of chapter 4. And those just, have kind of made an impact on my life, and have to go back to those a lot, both individually and as a minister.
I'm going to stick with context there.
Okay.
Because there's a passage that, if I sign, being a school teacher, sometimes you sign annuals and you got to come up with something good to say, so why not go with a Bible verse? And so 2 Timothy chapter 2 is one that I oftentimes look at. If I was going to do a resume for a ministry job, I would put this verse as really a mission statement. In chapter 2, verse 1, it says, "You then, my child, be strengthened by the grace that is in Christ Jesus, and what you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, and trust to faithful men, who will be able to teach others also. Share in suffering as a good soldier of Christ Jesus. No soldier gets entangled in civilian pursuits, since his aim is to please the one who enlisted him. An athlete is not crowned unless he competes according to the rules. It is the hard-working farmer who ought to have the first share of the crops. Think over what I say, for the Lord will give you understanding in everything." And so, once again, same book, same kind of message of, if this is my last letter to write, here are some things I want to leave with you. Your strength comes from the grace in Christ. Don't be entangled. Don't let what the world says kind of determine your trajectory, if I can use that word, and be prepared to suffer for that.
Yeah.
So that encouragement, and I think that is something that I pick up also in John chapter 2, at the end of chapter 2, going in chapter 3. A lot of people, John 3 is the stuff, and it is. Verse 16 is awesome. But especially in our social media age, where everybody, and willingly we sign up for it. I post stuff, and therefore I put it out there, and people can judge it and do whatever they want to with it. And we put a lot of stock in what people say, and I'm always reminded of John 2, where it says, verse 23, "Now when he was in Jerusalem, that being Jesus, at the Passover feast, many believed in his name when they saw the signs that he was doing. But Jesus, on his part, did not entrust himself to them, because he knew all people and needed no one to bear witness about man, for he himself knew what was in them." And
That's
so
a scary passage.
It is a scary passage, and for some reason I'm drawn to those passages. But I get a little hope, because I want approval of men. I like an attaboy. I like when you guys like our videos and share our podcasts and say, hey, we appreciate what you're doing. But it's also important to not let that go to your head. And I think, Jesus is out to seek men, and he wants to draw men and women to him. But he's also not getting his value or his mission statement or worrying really about what people might say. And there's so much of preaching life that you have to strike that balance. I'm here to challenge you with the scriptures, But also, if you're paying me to do this, then there's also the temptation to go, okay, well, I don't want to rock the boat too much.
Right.
You know?
And that's an important thought I've not, really considered that much, is the idea of Jesus' value did not go up, down or up on how people responded to his message. The message and Jesus were just as valuable whether one person believed it or 20.
Intrinsic.
There was an
value.
intrinsic value. That's a big word for you, Travis.
Intrinsic, I'm telling you.
Just wanted to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about one of our sponsors, M2Y. The Ministering to Youth Conference is located at the Mainstay Suites in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee on November the 4th through the 7th. If you want a place where you'll be surrounded by youth ministers, elders, deacons, preachers, youth volunteers, and parents, all with a common goal of helping today's youth, then this is the place for you. This year's theme is Renew. The keynote speakers are Dan Chambers and Spencer Furby, along with several other class teachers who will be teaching on subjects like self-care, navigating culture, technology, mental health, and so much more. If you're interested in this, go to m2yconference.com to register, or you can go to benandtravis.com/m2y for more information. We hope to see you there this year.
So go back to your 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse, and this is one that every time I preach that passage or talk about that passage, I want to use this illustration, and nobody probably understands it, and so I want to see if you would even understand it. But that verse where he says, "This that I've given to you, I want you to entrust to other men who will be able to entrust other people," and the idea is who will be able to entrust others and others and others and others, and so on and so on and so on. And I always envision the Wayne's World thing where he's talking. You know what I'm talking about? And he says, "And so on, and so on, and so on," and like all the little boxes come
I got
up,
it. I'm on
and
that
there's
train.
there's like 100 boxes before he's done going, "And so on," and that's the picture that I get every time when Paul says, "I want you to entrust it to somebody who will, also hand it down, who will also hand it down," and it's like this, and so on, and so on, and so on. And then that's really what happens with the message is as we teach it, you never know how many people will be impacted. I shared a story in one of our articles last week that we sent out a couple of weeks ago, I guess, when this airs. And it was about New Hope, the church that I just did a meeting at, and New Hope Church of Christ in Lauderdale County, and how that they kind of reached out. Some of the people there encouraged our grandparents, who then raised 11 kids in the church. And those 11 have raised other kids, and then they're raising grandkids and great-grandkids, and so on and so on and so on. And so you never know the impact that one kind thing that you do will make on others, which leads me in segue to my other passage, and that's Titus 3:14 has become one of my more recent favorites. Our people must learn to engage in good deeds, to meet pressing needs so that they will not be unfruitful. And I think and it kind of keeps in the same vein because he's been writing to Timothy, encouraging him in his ministry. Here he is writing to Titus, and he's encouraging him in his ministry, and he says, teach the people to do good to people. Like, just teach them to do good deeds, to meet pressing needs. So, thinking about what is it that we see in our community? What is it we see in our church? What is it we see in our families? What is it we see in our schools or in our workplace? Like, where are the people who are hurting? Where are the people who need something? And so you apply that over to what Jesus talked about in Matthew 25. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. Sick and in prison you visited me. All those different things, you did those when you were doing it to the people who needed it in that moment. And so our churches, and that's where we come to the helping, healing, humor aspect of this, is our churches need us to look for the needs. Our communities need for us to look for the needs, to meet those needs, and in doing so, we won't be unfruitful.
And we're the legacy of Titus and 2 Timothy and John 2.
It's been passed down.
So on. And so now it's our turn to do the same. Mm-hmm. And we hope that this podcast is a part of that. We hope that we're able to encourage you remotely as much as you encourage us, because, wow, we just feel the love all the time. And it's such a strong connection to those texts. And I just thought that was a neat thing that was put out there, influential text. And we hope, like I said, we'll probably have to come back and touch this subject again to get it all in. But, we appreciate, we do have those texts that mean so much to us. And Ben, I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on the ones you've got, and it's pretty cool how those things overlap and work together.
Yeah, because we had no idea what each other were going to... I mean, I kind of shared with him some that I liked, but I don't think we really planned that together, and so it is cool how it all meshes. And I think a lot of it's because 2 Timothy and Titus and 1 Timothy were obviously addressed to individuals who were in ministry, like we are, and I think that.
And so,
that
if
helps.
you want to hold some individuals responsible for the chaos that Ben and Travis has reaped on the world and in Christianity, you could hold New Hope Church of Christ responsible. The good people,
Jacksonburg, New Hope,
exactly. There you go.
Hill. There's been a few that have influenced.
We'll give you the list that have kept us going in this thing. But if nothing else, lift those folks up in your prayers and thank them or hold them accountable, whatever.
Whichever way you got to do it, yeah.
But we sure do appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.